Hello, welcome to the Wednesday night stream. I'm your streamer, Bryan Bentley, for CGSpectrum.com. Thanks for coming in. This week, we will be still working on the Palindrone bot. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. It's taking me way longer than I thought I was going to, but it's super fun. So this week, actually, I haven't really had a lot of time to do a lot of work on this guy. So he's pretty much more or less in the state that I left him in. I did redo some of the topology on the head parts, and I went ahead and re-topologized. I retopologized the dome piece here so that it's nice and smooth and ordered. Now, one thing I did do when I retopologized the dome, I only matched every other span here, because if I did want to match it up, I can just smooth it. But what I'm thinking, what I want to do is I want to kind of bring this part out and have like this piece kind of sit inside of it like that, and that piece like sit inside of it like that. So like if I were to draw this out, like this piece, if I were to cut a side in here, see if I get my Epic pen to work. My Epic pen seems to not like to work when my my OBS is running. So what I want is basically just to have like a little ledge that this thing sits inside and this thing goes up inside. Because then at that point is extrude this guy, this edge, inward. So the other thing that I want to do is possibly take care of these bolts, because they're kind of like, they're kind of stuck on the inside, and I kind of don't like their overall model. Like those were just kind of like placeholders that I had before. Like there's no reason to have like this bottom part. So I can cut this off and just have it be half. And so I might distribute those, maybe some mash, we'll see. I'm not super super into mash, but you know, we'll see what happens. The other thing that I did a lot of is I really paid attention to my edges, right? So I always wanted 1, 2, 3 points on my edges. So 1, 2, 3 here, and here 1, 2, 3, and there 1, 2, 3. Same in the back, 1, 2, 3. So this is because if you have 3 points around your edges, they hold their corner really nicely. So if I go and press 3 on this guy, that holds the corner really, really nice. Oh, thank you, Ramel. I appreciate that. Yeah, so that's what I want to do eventually. The other thing, the other big thing I want to get into is, let's see, I want to get into these details. So like kind of like these front pieces here, and the brain as well. So I want to get into that. That's fun stuff. So now we're starting to get into the fun stuff, like the little needly details that really make this thing shine. The other thing I did is I went and I did retopologize this whole thing, just because you know, it just wasn't working. So because sometimes you do stuff and it just doesn't work. So let me quit my Epic pen. So I really like using the Epic pen. It makes my life a lot easier. See if this will restart real quick. So yeah, the other thing that I want to do is, so let's see if you, yeah, there we go. Okay. So it's a little big, but that's fine. So the other thing I did is I went and just re-topologized this whole fin here. And the reason I did that is because I was ignoring my edge flow. So my edge flow, whenever you have corners like this, you kind of want your edge flow to do something like this. Like you want it to flow out like that. And then this one is going to go full up like that. So that's how I got this crossing thing. So that's what allows me to make this piece here that holds that edge. So when I extrude this in, like this edge will get held, which is actually very nice. It's exactly what I want to do. So if I were to grab this guy and smooth it, so press 3, right? So that's 3, 1, 3, 1. And generally, that's what you want when you're modeling, right? I see so many students, and like their model looks totally different when they go from smooth to unsmooth. The smooth should be just that. It should like just take the edge off, right? So if I smooth this here, like my shape doesn't change too much. Even this is a little severe, right? If you go 2, you can see your cage, right? So the gap between your cage and your smooth model should not be very big. And that's kind of like my rule of thumb. Okay, so let's see what I want to do. What do I want to start with? I'm gonna start easy, and we're just gonna extrude out this plate here. So Control E and push this in just a little bit, like that. Okay, so that gives me that, and then I'm gonna reverse this. And so if I smooth this, this is going to go. So we can see that these edges stay sharp, but this guy is really mushy. So I'm gonna do, actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a connect. So I'm gonna go grab this edge here, turn off so I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna grab that whole loop, and I'm gonna go over to my modeling toolkit, and I'm gonna do connect. So if I roll my mouse button, should be able to, yeah, so I can do connect, press enter. There we go. So once again, connect, and I can do segments. Yeah, I can do 3, 2, I do 1, 2, 3. Let's do 2. Yeah. So press enter. So now when I smooth this, that edge stays a little bit hard. If I want to exaggerate that even more, I can slide this edge. So I'm going to do slide edge. Slide edge. And then with my middle mouse button, I can slide that to the edge. So I can slide that real close. There. Slide that real. So that keeps my edge relatively crisp. So 3. So if I turn off my wireframe, get that nice little beveled edge when I smooth everything down. It's really nice. Okay. All right, next thing is I want this thing to kind of be just a teensy bit wider than this and this. So to do that, I'm going to grab all my vertices. And what I want to do is I want to move them out along their normal. So I'm going to double click. And so in general, most people use world and object, right? So this guy is centered in the world, so world and object don't really do anything. What I want to do is I want to do normal. So the normal is the way that this vertex is facing. So I'm just going to scoot this out just a bit. So you can see it's kind of bloating the entire thing. It's inflating the entire system, which is what I want, right? That's because I just want this to be really subtle, just a little bit of edge there. Okay. So what I'm going to do with that, now I'm going to extrude this edge and then extrude it down. So, good to meet you, Mamoon. Nice to meet you. Control E, and so that will allow me to extrude this inward ever so slightly. And then I'm going to do Control E again, and then that will allow me to pull this down. So I have this teensy little lip right here. And then for this edge, and actually this guy, I think this is going to end up being see-through. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this edge, and I'm just going to pull it down. So go back to my world. I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to pull it down just a little bit, just so it's inside that little skirt. Okay. And I'm going to isolate these because this is kind of detailed work that we're doing here. All right, so I have this edge and this edge here. So what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to give this a bit of thickness because I want this to be like a piece of glass. And if I leave this like this, right, and this is a common thing that I see a lot of students, they'll especially if you're using like Arnold or V-Ray or Octane or something, and you make something glass, like if I make this glass, have a inside shell to this thing, the renderer will treat this like one solid piece of glass. So you'll get like all this crazy like fishbowl distortion of anything inside of that. So to fix that, there's two things you can do. One, most of these renderers, oh, nice to meet you, Ramel. How's it going, man? Cool. So there's two ways to fix that that situation where you're getting like this fishbowl look. One is most renderers have this thing called thin, which basically just says, all right, this is glass, you know, light and energy can pass through it, but that light and energy isn't bent at all. Like, so it just kind of passes through. So that's one way to fix it. But then you do want some of that, you know, that distortion. So the other way is to actually give this thickness. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do Control E, and I'm going to pull this in just a bit. Like that. So giving this guy just a bit of thickness. And then display reverse. So giving that a little bit of thickness. So now when the ray comes in, it'll hit that front surface, evaluate the middle of this as a volume, hit this back surface, evaluate this void, hit this surface, and then hit that surface. So this will treat it as an actual thicker piece of geometry. So because I'll be able to see the back of that. Now I have to model the inside of this guy. So I'm just going to maybe let's pull this down just a bit. So that's passed. Do Control E and pull this up like that. So I'm just making a little lip like this. Control E again. Go up. Control E again. A small lip like that. Control E again and pull this way down. So what I've done is, if I hide this guy, I've made like this little shelf that goes in there. Yo, what's up, Sydney? So, just like I did before, I want to make sure that these guys hold their edges, because if I press 3 right now, this just looks kind of gooey and wobbly. So I want to make sure that those edges get held. And actually, I think I also want maybe a little bit of a secondary bevel on these as well. So just to catch a little bit more light. So I might do a double bevel on these. Double bevel. So let's do just double clicking on all of these edges. Hello, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so I'm gonna make sure I got all that. Yep, Control B. And I'll make this pretty big. Because this bevel I'm actually using as a modeling tool. Let's say show last hidden. And I should see, yeah. So I just want that little kind of bit right there. So it goes up, it turns, and then it goes back in. multipass rendering in Maya and Nuke. Yeah. I can do that. I can do some multipass rendering. Maybe I'll even do it with this guy once I get to the rendering stage. It's a good idea. So I'm gonna do the same thing on these. I'm just gonna run another bevel so that those edges hold their shape. So bevel inception. Bevels on bevels. And this one I'm gonna actually make quite small. So now when I smooth this, I'm getting that nice light catching there. So it's like a little collar that I made. Cool. So I'm going to do the same thing down here with this guy. So same thing. So I'm going to do isolate these. Let's do one. Make sure that's one. Turn this back on. Edge. So I'm going to do Control E. There's my little gizmo. So I'll pull this in till right before it hits there. And Control E. And just pull it up like that. Like this one I don't really have to do the extra ledge because you're really never going to see, hopefully never going to see way down in there. So I don't need that secondary ledge. But what I do need is those two bevels. So here, Control B. This one's quite large. And actually, I think I'm going to make this inside one a little bit tighter. So Control B, make that one quite large. And this one rather tight. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. I'm really enjoying working on it. It is slow going, though. I thought I'd be done in like 2 weeks. Little did I know how much fun I would have doing this. So, I'll pull this in. All right. So now we get like this teensy little pull this guy, pull this stuff up just a bit. Just a smidgen, just so that it kind of slots. So it kind of, everything kind of touches everything else. And then this will give me some really nice ambient occlusion when I actually go to do my texturing. This will make me a really nice tight ambient and occlusion map around here. So that'll be really cool. All right, so while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and do this part. So I'm going to do this edge, Control E, and I'll pull this guy back just a bit. And Control E, and pull that out just a bit. So I'm just making just the tiniest ledge just to kind of try to fake filling in some space. I would, went too far on my bevel there. I would texture this by, I'll probably do it in Substance Painter. So I'd have to UV it first because I don't really have any UVs on this guy right now. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that. If people are interested in that, I can definitely show that part of the process as well. Let's do maybe offset instead. Thickness. Pull this in, maybe pull it up just a little bit. So I'll pull this as far as I can take it before it starts to intersect itself. Yeah, so I think that's working. And then once again, we'll do our bevels. to keep our edges. Actually, these are actually this is bevel for style, right? This isn't edge keeping. No, the second one I do is for edge keeping. So this guy, here, and there, that is going to be for edge keeping. Make sure it goes all the way around. This is where you really get into the nitty-gritty of things. To get really close, pay a lot of attention to what you're doing. Usually, I don't have to talk while doing this. I'm just sitting here muttering to myself. Tutorial about light linking. Yeah, I can do that. I tend to not use light linking anymore, though. I don't use light linking because a lot of the lighting in 3D now is it's very physically accurate. So instead of light linking, what I'll do is I will use light filters, so light decay, things like that, and gobos. Just going to put a small holding edge just here with my multi-cut tool. There, and there. Yeah, that's looking really nice. So it just adds a little bit, it's just like a little bit of just something that catches the light here, gives it some dimensionality, gives it some feeling of belonging. Cool, but yeah, light linking I tend to stay away from, mostly because it's just you just have to remember what you link to what, and it makes it hard to it makes it really hard to diagnose problems if you need them. What do you think of modeling? What do you think modeling is like in Cinema 4? Oh, you mean Cinema 4D? It's pretty much the same. Modeling is like one of those things. It's like it's more or less the same in every single package, right? Like you have like maybe like 5 tools that you use. You know, you have your extrude, you have your cut, you have your separate, you have your weld of in some sort, maybe mirror, right? They're all pretty much the same thing. So like Maya, Cinema 4D, 3D Studio Max, Blender, even Houdini to an extent, like all kind of do the same stuff. So yeah, it's all basic principles. That's why modeling's so fun. It's been around for so long. Like kind of everybody does it the same way. All right, so I'm liking where this is at. I'm liking where this is the head is at right now. Okay, so I think the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pop back over to ZBrush, and we're gonna work on this brain and bring in that brain. Okay, so I'm gonna file, increment and save. Always increment and save. All right, so ZBrush. So I did a little bit more work on the brain. Right, so I just did a little bit more sculpting on it. Yeah, that's my Dynamesh. So I did a little bit more sculpting on it, chopped off the bottom, and just made sure it sat really nicely inside of here. Now, I think I might need a little bit more room because I want to put in these 2 plates in here. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that, but I'll figure it out. So I think I'm going to make this guy just a wee bit smaller overall. So yeah, because I just need room. If I look here, yeah, that comes out to about there. Maybe that's a little bit too small. And I don't know what's going on in the back, so maybe I'll scoot it back just a bit. So I may have to adjust this guy in Maya as well. So I'm liking what this is doing. So before I go and go ahead and zero mesh this, I want to check what it looks like in Maya. So I'm going to go ahead and export this. And I think I've already done this once. Let's see, that is brain to retopo. Yeah, there we go. Save. Yes. I'm going to go pop back over to Maya and bring that guy in. So file, import. After taking the CG modeling course, we can be, of course, we can model this in a week if I work for 18 months. I wouldn't say that you can model this. Well, I mean, if you were working on it like every day, you could probably model it in a week. I've been working on this, you know, sporadically on and off for, you know, about 4 weeks. So yeah, you could probably do it in a week if you really buckle down and, you know, put 8 hours a day into it. What is my operating system doing? Right, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. Like my Maya is angry at me for some reason. There we go. There we go. All right, let's go up. My projects, up one more. Wait for it. There we go. OBJ. And brain. There we go. Import. So this guy's pretty heavy, but I really just want to see how this is sitting inside this, the dome here. Yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking where that's sitting. Cool. So I'm actually just going to let zero mesh this for me. Sometimes you can let zero mesher do stuff for you. Like this isn't deforming. Like it's kind of got like these wacky creases on it and everywhere. So I'm just going to let zero mesher do that for me. So what I am going to do is I'm actually going to actually maybe I'll put this in its own thing. I think this deserves its own kind of slot. New folder. Brain. Yeah. Let's call this rename. Brain high. Cool. So I'll duplicate this. Duplicate. And we'll call this one brain remesh. Cool. So I'm going to take my remesh. Let's turn on. I'm going to take on solo. I'm going to turn on my polylines. Go back to draw. And I'm just going to let zero mesher do its thing. Zero mesher. So what zero mesher does is it looks at the curvature of your model and it tries to make intelligent decisions on what your model. In these creases, I should see much smaller polygons because you need a tighter polygon, smaller polygons to get inside that crease. And in these big flat parts, you should see bigger polygons because you don't need really small polygons to describe big flat pieces. So I'm going to go to geometry and we're going to go to zero mesher and let's see, it's at 5,000. Yeah, let's see what that does. We'll see what that does. So I'll do adaptive. That's fine. There we go. What should I do when I'm finished with my work from CG Spectrum? Should I make a different handgun or a different medieval weapon? I don't know. That's up to you. It's up to you. Either one is good. Handguns are like really nice mechanical kind of pieces, They always look good on portfolios because they are really, really complex. But then medieval pieces are like really fun. Like you can do like a pole axe or like a chained weapon or something like that. So it's kind of up to you. All right, so there's my Z remeshed brain. So I'll spit that out. So I'll say export, and I'll just overwrite that the last one that I did. So brain to retopo. Let's pop back over to Maya. Okay, so this is dome. This is, I think there's my original dome in there. So I'm just gonna hide, or actually delete that guy. So this is gonna my glass dome. Cool. This is my glass dome, and I'm gonna import my new brain. File, import, and wait for this. Yep. So I'm gonna wait for that, and then brain to retopo. Import. So there is my brain. So it's still a little. It's more dense than the rest of my guy, but oh yeah, that's okay. That's okay. All right. So next part. Okay. So I got my brain. I got this guy in here. So let's actually hide that real quick. So I got my brain in there, and it's sitting in there quite nicely. And if I look at it from a couple different angles, unless I look at it from like straight down like this, I can't really see the bottom. But just in case, I think I'll just put like a big flat kind of piece of geometry underneath there. Just in case. Yeah. So let's do that. So I'm gonna make I'm just gonna make a plane. Should I make a plane or tube? Let's make a plane. So I'm gonna create polygon primitives, plane, and so we'll just take this guy and move him up. This. So this is just a catch, you know. Instead of light linking, so I'll use what's called, instead of light linking, I'll do what's called light filters and decay filters. Or I'll actually physically put, like if I want light to not hit something, I'll actually put a piece of geometry like in front of that thing, so it like literally blocks the light. What steps should I take to become a strong modeler? So practice a lot. That's one thing. So you should model as much as you can, as often as you can. And then the other thing is, I would say, just observation, right? Look at forms. Look at like mundane things. Like try to model real world things as much as you can. So it's really nice to, you know, model dragons and like robots and stuff like that, but there's no metric for that type of thing, right? You can't tell if you've done it, you know, correctly, or if you're on the mark, because you're bringing it just from like your own, you know, your own psyche or whatever. Whereas if you do, it's like, okay, I want to model this car, or I want to model this piece of real world machinery. There is definitely, I mean, does it look like the thing you're trying to model, or does it not? So that's one of the things that I would really suggest. I mean, you can still model stuff that is that's fantastical and is fun to do, but try to you know, intersperse some like practical stuff in there. That's what I would say. My dashboard. There we go. Yeah, that's what I would say. I think there might be something going on with my stream, guys. I'm sorry. I'll have to look into that later. So what I'm doing now is I'm just putting in just like a teeny little piece of holding geometry, just so that I can make sure that this inside is covered. Yeah, that's looking good. And I'm just gonna do modify freeze transformations. Okay, now next thing is these little guys here. So I think, so this has like these sharp edges here. So it's like this kind of out, in, out, in, out, in. So let me, I think I want to try to draw this first. I tend to try to draw as much stuff as I can before. So I think, so I have this line here. Actually, let me get my Wacom pen out. So I have that line there, and I'm going to do the upper one. So that's about there. So this is going to come up like that, and then it's going to come down like this, and then it's going to come out like that, and then it's coming down like that. Oh, thank you very much. I have a fan. That's new. I'm just a dude who likes drawing stuff or modeling stuff. So I think, so what I want, so I'm going to do the same thing as methodologies I did down here. So this is a contour, so this will come out. So this will come out like that. This one, so I think this will come out like this. This will come down like that. Maybe that'll come in. So the question is, do I want for this piece that and that, and then that should allow me to get a kind of point there. Or I can do it the other way, so I can do this, and that'll give me 1, 2, 3 there. I think this will work better. Okay. So it's always good to just kind of like brainstorm before you start going in and hacking stuff together, or at least I do, because, you know, I only have so much brain power on a given day. Okay. So on JX, I'm going to go to my Quadro. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to make this guy live. I'm going to draw directly on top of that. All right. So the first thing I want to do is, let's make that middle part. And I want to see here. Yeah, there we go. All right. So I'm gonna make this, actually this, yeah, I'll start with the bigger one. So here. So I'm gonna just start with a square on top of this guy. And so that's going to be this little part here. I'm going to pull, grab this guy, pull that out, and that'll be that little peak there. So I'm going to actually go to my multi-cut as well. So let's see. So this is going to be my peak here. So I'm going to put another thing there, and maybe I'll put one in the middle as well. Yeah. So this, I think, should come up to here. So let's see. Sometimes the simplest looking stuff is the hardest to to manage. So I think this guy is going to come up. That'll be the next point, and then this will just come down. I want that one. I want this one, and probably this one and that one. Yay, it's brain time. It's big brain time. Okay, so I think that's good. So I need to, I'm going to untemplate this guy, and I think I'll just scoot this one forward. Right. Cool. So with this, now what I want to do is I'm going to use my sculpting tool, and I'm going to just kind of try to even this out as much as I can. Let's see. Hold down B, make that smaller, and yeah. All right, so I'm just going to relax this out. So kind of just chill. So it's not so lumpy. I might actually end up smoothing this out. And already I'm starting to kind of get like this shape, which is nice. So once again, you know, generally you should start with bigger forms and then move to smaller forms. So this guy. So I'm going to have to make these holding edges soon. Actually, like when you look at something, if you want to determine something's curvature, looking at it like this is a really good way to judge curvature of something. Let's put symmetry back on Object X. There we go. All right, I feel like this is feeling pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my multi-cut tool, and so let's start to cut in some pieces. So let's try that one, the one system. So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to cut this down to here. So I have those 3 points again. And let's see, do I want, so this guy, I'm going to do the same thing. And this guy, I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, this inner one, if I were to connect that, and I'm going to collapse this edge, and that'll give me like a little edge loop there. Now I still need 3 lines here, so I need to figure out where those are going to go. Because I still want this thing to be relatively smooth. So, looks like I lost a little bit of symmetry here, so let's do edit mesh, symmetrize. Yeah, there we go. Actually, what I'll do is I only need to do half of this guy. So I'm going to turn off Object X. And boom. Let's get rid of that. And I'm going to take this edge. And I'm going to make sure it's at 0. So this guy, I'm going to say, make sure you're at X, 0. There we go. Okay. So what I need now is I need 3 edges. Because if I were to smooth this right now, if I press 3, that edge is going to round out. I want that to be sharp there. So I definitely want that to be sharp. So I'm going to do Control Shift X, and I'm going to put one in the middle here, and one in the middle here. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to slide both of these edges down to the corner. Slide edge. So now if I smooth this, should keep that corner nice. So I'm getting a little bit of a pucker there as well. So I may have to do some work to get that to go away. The other thing I could do with this is instead of this kind of configuration, let's go back, could continue, let's just bring back this guy. Bring back that, and let's see, I'm gonna go this way. So that gives me that, and if I do a 3 there, and so what I'll do is X, and I'll put that there. And that holds that a little bit better. I'm still getting a little bit of a pucker, but I think that might get fixed when I extrude this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run my relax tool a little bit again. Just kind of push everything away from itself. Same thing here. So grab this vertex. Move this. Starting new forms is always hard. Like, I always find it very difficult. Especially stuff like this, it's so kind of specific, needs to be a very specific shape. So let's see what this looks like when I'm just going to do a temporary extrusion. Actually, that's puckering out quite a lot. So this is actually what I'm going to do for this. This is a little trick. So I don't like how lumpy this is getting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just flatten this whole thing, and then I'm going to model it flat, and then I'm going to bend it into space. So sometimes you have to go backwards before you can go forwards. So I'm going to press D, and I'll hold down V. I'm going to snap my pivot to the front of this guy, and then I'll flatten that like so. Basically as flat as I can get. Okay, so now what this will allow me to do is I can work just in like one plane, so I'm not working in 3 planes. So these guys can get straightened out. These guys can also get straightened out. And let's delete that. Delete that. And actually what I'm doing at this point is I'm just kind of like starting over. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you take a path and it doesn't work, and you just got to start over. No shame in it. So basically I'm just trying to bring this into a better aligned mesh that will help me okay. I think that's a little bit better. Okay, so let's try. Let's do the round, right? So I'm gonna go all the way around this thing with an edge loop. So here, here, here. So this goes to here. This goes to here. So I'll have to deal with this big kind of ingon in the center here. This goes to here. And that terminates down there. So what this does is gives me like this big edge loop that I can do this and that, right? So that guy, and then, so let's deal with this. So I can bring, I could bring this to here. But that's going to cross a lot of stuff. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or I could bring this all the way down here and this all the way over here, which is, I think, what I'm going to do. And then these edges gets deleted. So now I can do that takes 3, that has 3, that has 3. That becomes really tight, that becomes really tight. So if I smooth this now, there we go. Very good. 1, 2, here and here. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Cool. Awesome. All right. So I'm just gonna even this out a little bit. So here, 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 there, and there. I think I'm gonna leave them modeled. Things like this, like really big forms like this, I tend to leave in a modeled state. Yeah. So I wonder if it would be worth running a relax over this. Let's see if what a relax does to this. Not much. A little bit, but not much. Yeah, not worth it. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this into place. So I'm going to grab, don't want to, yeah. So I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go to form. I'm going to do bend. Nonlinear, bend. Boink. So this makes me this little bend handle. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to scoot it over here so it's in the middle, and over in my attribute editor. So I have this bend, so I can say curvature. So it's going to bend like that. But this is bending the wrong way. So what I need to do is rotate this 90 degrees this way, and 90 degrees this way. Could, if I want that to flare out a little bit, I can even change where it's going. But I still want, I think I want that to be flat. Sweet. So now I can kind of curve this thing around the front of this guy. Yeah, so I can curve that around the front. So I'm getting kind of this look. And then I also think, I want to, let's bring back everything else. I feel like this thing needs to be just a little bit bigger. So let's make it bigger that way. Because that goes almost all the way to the edge of the brain there. Yeah. And then I think I also want to curve it up this way. Like I kind of want it to hug the brain. So I'm going to do one more bend. So let's see. Deform, nonlinear, bend. take this guy, put that in the middle, put that down there. And I want this to bend that way. So once again, hold down J and snap this until it's 90 degrees. So not too much curvature. Yeah, that's right. I'll take my high bound and bring this, oops, bends the whole thing. So just a little bit of curvature goes a long way on this type of stuff. And actually, I'm going to take my low bound down to 0, and I'm going to move, because I want my bend to start here, not at the bottom. So I'm going to take this, I'm just going to scoot it up. So my bend starts here and not at the very bottom. Yeah, I'll be streaming texturing as well, for sure. Cool, great. I'm liking where this is going. Let's smooth this again. Yeah, that's looking nice. That's looking real nice. Great. So that's how you can use bin deformers, or actually just regular, to get your mesh to do what you want it to do. All right, so let's, I'm going to delete the history on this guy. So I'm going to say edit, delete by type history, and that'll bake in those bins. I'm going to make sure that my middle is actually the middle. So I'm going to set that to 0. And I'm going to go ahead and mirror this guy. So I'm going to say mesh, mirror. I want to merge with the original. And yeah, so we'll do that. Yeah, that's looking really good. It's looking really good. So I kind of want this little notch here. So I'm going to do just one more cut in the middle here. And one cut in the middle here. And I'm going to take these edges and flatten them out. And then I'm going to take these guys and just pull them down just a little bit. So I got that little, kind of like little notch in the center there, like that little guy. Okay, so that's kind of like that brain plate. So now that I have this, like that kind of form is repeated down here. So this is just kind of like a smaller version of this. So there's no reason to reinvent the wheel here. Actually, let's do a little bit of maintenance. Kind of want to make sure these are nice and curved. Probably should have done this before the bin deformer, but that's okay. Just a little bit of editing. Okay. Right, cool. Okay, so I'm going to modify freeze transformations on this. And so I'm going to make this the smaller one. So I'm just going to hold down Shift and duplicate this guy. And I'll just kind of smush it into place. So let's see. Let's make it a little bit smaller. A little bit less curvature. This one's a little bit flatter. Yeah, so let's see what that looks like with the rest. I feel like still it's a little bit thinner. A little bit taller. And then these guys are a little bit wider, like they kind of come out a little bit. So what I'm going to do for this is I think I'm going to put a lattice on this. So I'm going to say another deformer. and we're going to say lattice. Where is it? I don't really use lattices that much, but they are handy in the situation. So I have a lattice. I don't need this many divisions up and down, so I'm going to take that down to 2. I'm going to take my S divisions. 1, 2, 3 feels good. And my T divisions, yeah, it feels good. So I'm going to take my lattice point. I'm going to take those and just kind of drag them around until it starts to look like I want it to look. So just that little change, like it's like this guy isn't an exact copy of the one on top of it, so it looks. Yeah. See how much room I got. Yeah, I got plenty of room to put some thickness on those guys. Great. So, delete by type. History. Oh, man, already been going an hour. That goes way fast. So fast. So fast. So that's also going pretty good. So, yeah, he's coming along, right? We got the brain up here, got these little guys in here. I'm trying to decide what I want to do, how I want to do, what like these things mean. I think box modeling or plane, they're pretty much the same thing. Box modeling allows you to establish your form. It allows you to establish your volume really quickly, but then you kind of have to work your way into your details. Plane modeling, when you're like, or like some people call it strip modeling, when you're like extruding strip by strip by strip by strip by strip by strip. It allows you to do your details really fast, but it tends to yield a heavier model or a unnecessarily heavy model. So either or, they're both using the same stuff. All right, so I'm going to extrude both of these. I'm just working with like reckless abandon today. I'm like, yeah, don't save anything. Okay, so extruding those. Reverse those. Let's display reverse. And I'm gonna do the same thing as I did to everything else. Just add like these little. Actually, you know what? I think I'll add a bevel to this. This might give me some weird geometry here. Let's see. No, it's okay. Cool. So I'm gonna add a bevel to the edge of this, just so like I'm gonna do that same thing that bevel and bevel, so I get like that nice. I'm catching that nice little highlight on the edge. So let's do this, and I'm never ever gonna see the back of this thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get rid of these faces. So let's do, and I'm never gonna see the bottom of this. So I'm gonna do from here to here. So I'm gonna get rid of that. And then I'm gonna grab this edge loop. Actually, maybe it's this one. Yeah, that one. And this one. So I can get rid of those, and then I can just get rid of these faces. Because I don't think I'm ever going to get behind this thing, like get behind that brain. So this thing isn't going to be translucent or anything. I imagine it's going to be like some sort of glowing metal, or something like that. So just something I don't have to worry, less stuff to worry about UVing later. So I'm going to grab this edge. See if that goes all the way around. Yep. And control. So I'll make this fraction quite high. Yeah, so I'm getting a nice little kind of edge highlight there. And actually, I think I'm going to lean into this crease. I was trying to avoid it, but I think it can be a nice little detail there. Yeah, that's nice. And it kind of it kind of accentuates the bisection of the brain as well. Like you have like this, your brain has this cleft down the middle of it, so these kind of things could also have clefts down the middle of them as well. I think I got a little bit too close with this guy, so I'm going to push him back just a little bit. I may have to push this. I may have to shrink this whole apparatus down. My brain was a little bit too close. So maybe I can pull my brain back a little bit. Pull this back a little bit. Pull this back a little bit. Oh, thank you. I think it's looking pretty good as well. So I might have to just shrink the brain down a bit. Yeah, so let's do that. Modify. Let's see. Center pivot. So I'm going to have to shrink. Give him a little bit less brains. Just a teensy bit less brains so I can fit in his armor pieces. Because everything has to fit under that dome. So I'm hoping these don't clip into the dome. If they do, I'll deal with that as needed. And actually, I might tilt this guy back just a bit. Yeah, I like that. I like that kind of like edge, how this is tilted and this is not. So let's pull my glass dome back in. Make sure nothing is clipping through. Oh, so close. So good. Great. Wow. Increment and save. It's just a little bit smaller. Just a little bit smaller. It'll give me more room for like these little wires that come off of it as well. Okay, so I'm going to do that same thing to this front plate. So same thing. Nope, not that one. Yeah, that one, and then this one. So I went too far. Went too far. You've gone too far, Bentley. Let's see. Should be. Oh, that's why. I need to get rid of the bottom part first. So this guy into this guy, and then we can cut off the back. Awesome. And so let's bring that back. And if this guy goes in, let's do a little contrapposto. We'll take this and pull it out. So this guy goes out and that guy goes in. Yeah, that's looking really nice. I like that. I like where this is going. I really like where this is going. Sweet, 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 sweet. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So, file, increment and save. All right. Let's see. What do I do next? What next? I think I'm gonna do some cleanup. I know cleanup is boring, but it's very necessary. So what? And let's take some stock of where I'm at. So I have mostly got most of this stuff done. All right. Let's do some cleanup. So let's call this brain. This guy is going to be shelf. We'll just call this brain fill. This guy is brain plate A and brain plate B. And then I have my glass dome here. That's going to be, all right, so this is going to be my head all group. So I'll put all of this under here. What's this guy? So we'll call this collar. And this guy we'll call, I don't even know what to call this, head main. So this will be head all group. And this guy will be ear, I guess. Okay, and then this is, what is this? This is going to go with my, I think this is history left over. Yeah, so let's say ear, child, parent, P, that can go away. And I'll go through, I'll do a big kind of, and then these are going to be my bolts. So I think I'll work on the bolts now. Actually, you know what? And I don't think I need this original stuff anymore. I think I'm far enough along where I'm not going to come back to this. Yeah, so I don't need these either. Kind of making a big milestone change. Let's see. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. Don't need that. And what is this? Yeah, I don't need any of this stuff. So every now and again, it's good to just like do like an audit of like what you have. So that can go away, and then I think these are just the rest of the bolts. Yeah, yeah. So the next thing I'm gonna do is like while I'm at the bolts, while I'm on the bolts, let's do the bolts. So I'm just gonna pick one of these guys, and I want to get it back down to the origin. So I'll just pick this guy and duplicate it. And it should be, and we'll call this bolts. Call this bolts origin. At what part do I start deleting history? That's a really good question. When it feels right. I wish I had a better answer than that, but that's pretty much what it is. Like, it's just like when I get to a point where I'm just like, oh, I just have so much stuff and I'm not gonna go any further. Like, I know I'm not gonna go back and change much stuff. That's when I start deleting history. All right, let's get this bolt. So basically, what I want is I want this bolt back at the origin, basically. So there's a couple different ways I can do this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a center pivot, modify, center pivot. Now this gives me my pivot, but this thing is still all, wrong. So this is, what else can I do to this? I can press D, and I can align this to this face. Actually, I'll align it to the top face. And I'll press D again, and then I'll do center pivot again. So modify, center pivot. So that takes care of the orientation, and the center pivot takes care of the position. So I'll press D again, and then I'll hold down V, and I'm just going to snap to this bottom part. Press enter. Or press D again. So now, this is the trick, right? So this thing is still 0, 0, 0, but my pivot is way up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake this thing into world space. So I'm going to say modify bake pivot. So now I have all these numbers in here. So if I zero those out, this guy will now pop down to the origin, which is exactly what I want. Because I want to get rid of half of this thing. So I'm just going to rotate this so it's sitting on the origin. So I'm going to hold down J and just do. I think this is still set to object. I'm going to set this to world. I'm going to hold down J and just snap that. Oh, I still have symmetry turned on. Now J, snap that down to the bottom. All right, so now I'm just going to take this face and I'm going to cut this thing down the middle and just delete the bottom. So I need to cut this middle part as well. So it's hard to navigate because this thing is so small. Delete that. Delete that, and then this guy gets deleted as well. So I go to my right view. This thing is so tiny. So tiny. So now this thing is like sitting directly on the ground. So I'm just going to do my vertices and pull that down. That would have been fun. A little bolt to work on the symmetry. Yeah. So I'm just going to put this at the origin. And once again, just like those brain plates, I'm never going to see the back of this bolt. So I'm not going to fill it in. But what I am going to do is I'm just going to put a little teeny tiny bit of edging. This bolt is so small. Yeah, a little bit of edging there, and maybe a little bit of bevel, just to catch some edge. Cool, nice. So this is my bolt. So I'm going to delete history on this guy because I'm never going to need that stuff again. Edit, delete by type, history. All right, moving along. Okay, so now I'm going to take this bolt and I'm going to put it back on this guy. So let's see, how do I want to do this? I think I could use mash to do this. I'm not super, versed in mash, but screw it. Let's see what happens. I got about 40 minutes to make a fool of myself. Let's do it. All right, so I'm going to do edge, and I'm going to, let's see. I think in mash, I can take an object and repo it onto an edge. So I'm going to say create, let's do, I'm going to do create, or actually I'm going to do modify, convert, and I'm going to do poly edge to curve. Yeah. Bang. So that gives me this NURBS curve. And I wonder if it's going to... Nope. So it gives me this NURBS curve. So what I want to do, so I have that NURBS curve. And so I think I'm going to try... Let's try a mash thing. Let's file, increment, save. And let's see, modeling. Animation, mash. So I'm going to grab, see if I remember how to start this. Yeah, so I'm going to say bolt, mash, create mash network. see, create mesh network, create mesh deformer, create dynamics. Yeah, create mesh network. Boom. So that should give me a mesh network. Yeah, there we go. And so what it's done is, if we look, like, this is my repo mesh, and it's distributed these bolts in a straight line. Cool. So you get this mesh distribute. So I have number of objects. So if I put more, I have distance in X. So yeah, let's say I want, I think I said 36 here. So I want 36. I want 36 bolts, but I don't want them in a straight line. I want them on a curve. So I could do it at spherical as well. I could do radial as well. So if I do radial, they'll be like this. And, ooh, I could do that. I don't even need to put them on the curve. I could make a motion path, but I wanted to play around with mesh. There's like always a million things to do stuff. A million ways to do things. So this is my mesh repo node here, and I can move. No, I can't. Okay, that's fine. I'll probably have to do a transform. But so my mesh is radial, and I can bring my radius. These are really hard to see. This guy's so small. Where is... Oh, there we go. Okay, there they are. So really, really small. So I'm going to bring these 36. I'm going to bring my radius down. So like about there. So these are nicely placed here. If I group these... Can you move the group? Okay. All right, so that's one way to do it. So I could just delete the history on this and just move this to where it needs to be, but I wanted to use that curve. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say add a curve node. So I'm going to click add curve node. So that puts a curve in there. Accepts curve or Bezier curve. So this is my mesh curve. This is my mesh distribute. So if I take my mesh node here, and I have to middle mouse drag. This is what's weird. I have to middle mouse drag this from here to here. And there's my curve, and there's my repo node. So it's kind of doing it. Getting there. So let's do transform space. Let's do local. Let's do world. Because last time I did something like this, like you're doing now, I did it. Yeah, you can do this with a motion path. And if this doesn't work, I'll totally use a motion path. But we'll see some like you'll get to see that even professionals have to learn how to use new stuff too. So I've been using Houdini. So this is kind of like Maya's version of Houdini. So let's see, step. So that makes it that takes the step down. Okay. I don't want animation. Proportional curve. Curve effect speed. This should put it directly on the curve. Yeah, it's close. I'll give this about 3 more minutes before I go to use a motion path. Let's see. Mesh. It's definitely something on the... Let's see. Maybe it's something on the distribute. Ah! Linear. So I need to turn off... let's see. In position... Initial state. Ah, there we go. So I need to set. I knew there was something weird about it. So I need to take my distribute and put it to initial state, and then on my curve, now everything's stuck on my curve. So if I do my step size, there we go. Sweet. Okay. So now I just need to take my original bolt. and unhide that. And I believe I just need to figure out which way I need to rotate this guy. Yeah, there we go. -90. Haha, Bob's your uncle. There we go. Mash curve. So the reason, Rushback was asking, is like, oh, why don't you do this with a motion path? Motion path works, but it's a little, it's not procedural. I think that's what Mash, the whole thing about Mash is. Like, let's say I show this to my art director, and he's like, oh, those bolts look great, but I want like less. I want 12 instead of 36. So instead of, if I did this with a motion path, I would have to go in and delete them and rebuild the motion path. So what I can do with this Mash network now is, after some fiddling, is now I can say, I can go to my distribute node and I can say, instead of 36, it's going to give me 12. Right? And looking at my reference, yeah, that looks actually right. Well, 36. And overall, they look a little bit smaller in the reference as well. So let's do, let's go to my channel box and we'll do 0.5 in scale. Maybe that's too small. That's too small. Maybe 0.75. Yeah, so that's using a quick Mash network to play some stuff, and it works pretty well. Works pretty well. So if I wanted to put another like row of bolts around there, I could use these lines, or if I wanted to put something on there, like some spikes or something, to use those lines. So the trick is you have to have your curve node. So you have to have your curve node in here, which is here. Middle mouse drag from your outliner to here. So this is like what's weird, because when I middle mouse drag this thing doesn't light up, so it's kind of not great affordance. So you make that, pull that in there, and then in your distribute node you have to set this to initial state, because if I have it set to anything else, it's going to add the curve plus the initial state. So it's basically it's spreading these things out along a line and putting them on the curve. So basically what initial state does is it says just leave them alone and only put them on the curve. So that worked very, very well. Yeah. So that's how you can distribute stuff along the curve. And this is great for like chains and stuff because it's live, right? If I take this curve and I start moving this curve around now, that Mash network's going to come with it. So that's pretty cool. Moving along. We're moving really fast now. All right. I think the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to separate. So right now, let's put this as, let's group all this stuff together. Call this bolts. All group. So what I think I'm going to do now is I still have a lot of these pivots and stuff in my model. Like I don't really need them anymore right now, but if I do want to rig this dude, like it'd be good to keep those around. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through. So my leg and my arm is where most of this stuff is. So let's go to my leg, and I have that bonkers like kind of rig that I put in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all of that and just kind of decouple all that work. So I'm going to say this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. So all this stuff is going to go under leg. Group. All right. So this, I might have to I might have to take away those constraints. Let's see. Let's go back. Okay. So that guy's fine. That guy's fine. The other thing I want to do is, as well, I'm going to freeze the transformation on all of this stuff. And I also, let's see. Yeah, I want to get rid of these constraints. So first get rid of the constraints. Then I will get rid of my IK stuff. So I don't need that. Really, all I need is these joints. That's really the only thing I want to keep around. So that can go away. What was that? That's my old foot. Get rid of that. So I'm just kind of going through and like cherry picking stuff. To make sure it still stays in there. So all this stuff, let's see, my foot, all those little bits. And I'm gonna have to go through and rename a lot of this stuff, but that's just kind of, this is a point where somebody was asking earlier, it's like, oh, when do you start deleting history? It's like at this point, when you're almost done and you're just kind of, I don't know, you can just feel it. Like it's a weird thing to say, but you can definitely just feel like it's like, all right, it's time to kind of start to clean this up. Okay, where are you? You're still under A. That goes in there. I'm just trying to move all this stuff up to the base level. Oh, there's still something in there. Okay, so I can get rid of that. Again, because that whole stack was just to put it as a place, and then these are my joints. I'm going to keep those around. All right, so this is just all my geometry here. And oh, this guy should go in, hide that. That should go in with, yeah, that's in the bolts. Okay, cool, 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 cool. Are you going to mirror it over since you aren't going to rig it, or duplicate over? I'm going to mirror it over, but because I have these joints, I can keep those around. I can also mirror those joints later to do a proper foot rig or a pseudo proper foot rig. So I'm going to make a new group that's just called pivots. All. So this will just contain all these wacky pivots that I've generated. So that's the pivot for my foot. So I can hide that. So now my foot is just, my leg is just all just geometry. So there's no locators in there. There's no anything. And offline, I'll go through and rename all this stuff because polysurface blah 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 isn't a very good name for anything. Okay, so I'm gonna do the same thing for my arm as well. The arm is like way worse. Arm is like a big old mess. So let's see. Let me find where. So this is my aim. So first thing I'll do is I'll just get rid of my constraints, and we'll get rid of anything that's hidden that I don't want. So I don't need this base wire anymore. Okay. And then so now I'll just take all of this stuff and parent it to the top. This thing has so many parts. And let's see, where are you? Where are you? So I'll just work my way down. So there's that one. And now these pistons, I think I'm going to leave them in their groups, to be completely honest. So I'm going to take this group and put it here. And this last one. And I'm not going by any like hard rule here. I'm just kind of going by like gut feeling. Like those pistons they're very nicely organized already. So need some emotes. What is an emote? I'm an old man. I don't know what an emote is. Okay, so there's my arm pistons. What is an emote? Tell me what an emote is. Teach me how to Dougie. So I'm gonna put those there. Oh, so I separated this out into arm and claw. So I think I'm gonna keep those separate. So there's my pistons. This guy, this guy, this guy. That's gonna go up into arm group all as well. So this. I want my wires as well. Yeah. Cables. Yeah, cables. An arm group. So basically what I'm trying to do with this is I'm trying to separate, if it's not already obvious, I'm trying to separate my geometry from kind of like the rotational pivots. Ah, okay. Yes, I'll let Jeremy know that students are requesting emotes. Okay, this is my shoulder sockets. So this will just be real quick. I need to get this done, or else I I won't do it. Okay, that was left over. Cool. All right. So I think this. Ooh, I still have one cable left in here. Cable 3. So this should just be what's left of my pivots. So cylinder can go away. This constraint can go away. This guy goes up to arm group. Great. So if I isolate this, I've just peeled away, like it's just a bunch of pivots left over. So I will go through that madness offline. So that will go into all pivots as well. So now I'm just left with just the geometry of my arm. So there we go. And that's a pretty big change. So I'm going to make a pretty large, I'm going to put this up to a 400 level. So save scene as. And wait for a minute. So call this arm rebuild. Okay, let's call this Cortex. I'm going to properly name this. Cortex 100. Awesome. So there's my claw. I think my claw is just, yeah, my claw is just geometry. Claw. Group, all group. I'll put that just below arm. Cool. So everything's nice and clean. It's looking good. It's feeling good. Bolts group. That's looking good. Got my head. Got my brain inside. Liking where this is going. All right. Sweet. All right. So we got about 15 minutes left. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to do a proof of concept for these little wire thingies up in here. And I think I'm actually going to do that in Houdini. Actually, this mesh network should be with bolts. Oh, you can't pair in a mesh network. We'll call this mesh bolts. Cool. Awesome. Save this. Oh, coming along. It's starting to get exciting. Starting to get exciting. Like, from what it was in that kind of like glob of mess in ZBrush to like this very, very controlled, controlled mesh. Makes me happy. Makes me very happy. Brian, do you know if I'm finished the first few weeks in task in one day? Can I switch to the non-introduction, or do I have to stick it out? Yeah, you pretty much have to stick it out. Well, actually, I don't know. You message Online Assist, and they can help you with that. But I'm pretty sure, like, once you're kind of locked in to an introductory class, you kind of have to finish it. But I could be wrong. Email Online Assist, and they will be able to assist you online. So at this point, one thing I also like to do is one thing I also like to do is I just like to see what it's going to look like if I throw some light on this very very haphazardly. So the other thing is I'm actually going to also clean up. So this guy has like all these random shaders on it. So I'm going to grab all this and I'm just going to say assign existing material Lambert 1. So that gives me all that, and then I'm going to go to my hypershade. And so I have all these bonkers materials in here. So I'm just going to say edit, delete unused nodes. So that should scrape all those down to nothing. So just doing a little bit of cleanup, intermittent cleanup. It's kind of like when you're cooking. If you clean up along the way while you go, you don't have to clean up everything at the very end. Okay. Let me fire up Houdini, because I want to try to think about how I'm going to do these little wire thingies. So let's do. And if we run out of time, we run out of time. We'll get to it next week. And just so I don't murder my computer, I'm going to go ahead and save this and close this down. Are you're talking about the Intro to Modeling course, Rushback? All right. New software. So, let's see. I'm going to drop down a geometry node to start off with. I'll pop inside here. So what I want is, I shouldn't have closed my pure ref. Yeah, I mean, like I said, email Online Assist. They'll be able to help you with that. I can't really say either way. That's above my pay grade. I'm just a lowly teacher, and I like it that way. So I'm going to work on tackling how I'm going to do these things. Okay. So, and this is what I really like about like working in Houdini, and this is why I tend to work, try to work as procedurally as I can, is because if you figure it out one way and it's procedural, you can just drop in your new, inputs, and then everything works. So what I'm going to try to do, so I'm just going to make a sphere, and I'm going to make this sphere a polygon. And I'm going to, let's make it a little bit bigger. And I'm going to make another sphere. So I'm going to make a transform. I'm totally shooting from the hip at this point. So my transform, I'm going to make this guy a little bit bigger. So I'm going to template this. So I have this big sphere outside of a Houdini poggers. What does this mean? You're speaking a different language. So what I'm going to do is, I think, so in this thing, right, there's like 2 points. Like there's a point that's on the brain, and then there's a point that is on the glass. So let's say this inner sphere is my brain, and let's say the outer sphere is the glass. So I'm going to scatter points on my inner sphere. Okay, so let's bring these down. And I want to project those points outwards towards my glass. So that's going to be a ray. So I'm going to take a ray and points to project. And then the thing I want to project them onto. So right now, I don't think these have any normals on them, because that's what a ray does, right? So what the ray does is, if you have a circle and you have a point on that circle and you're trying to project out to here, it takes the normal and goes like that, right? So I don't have any normals, so I need to make some. Not getting, am. I am old. I am old. There's no getting about it. I am old. So I'm going to do normal. So I'm going to give this guy point normals. So that should give these guys normals. Okay. And then so those normals should project out. Yeah, that's what I want. So I have these guys, and I have these guys that have been projected out. Let's see. Let's do a null here to get rid of that visualization. Okay. So those are my points. Let's grow those a little bit. Point size. Yeah, cool. So I have these inner points and these outer points. So each one has a corresponding thing, right? So what I can do now is I can connect them with a point. So what I want to remember which one of these comes from what. So I can merge these together. So I have my inner, outer. I merge those together. those are now together. The problem is I don't know, at this point, I don't know which one went with which. So I'm going to make a attribute called ID. So I'm just going to call this, it's going to give me an attribute. I'm going to call this, we're going to enumerate here. So if I look at this geometry spreadsheet, so I'm going to split this, top bottom, and inspectors, geometry spreadsheet. If I look at this guy, and this should be points. So I have this index coming off of here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to however many points I have. Okay. So if I take that and I reroute this guy to here and this guy to here, and I look down here, I should have 2 of each of this guy. So if I go my index, so I have 2 zeros, 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s, 2 4s. By the way, I take your advice on the hair and fur and watch the Peter Rabbit video and been working on some. Oh, cool, cool. Tiger fur is great. It's got a lot of very distinct qualities. So good job. Thank you for taking the advice. Okay, so last thing I'm gonna do is I want to connect these now, and the beauty of Houdini is I can say, give me an add, and I can say, let's see, polygons, and I can do by, let's see, what was it? It was by pattern, by group, by attribute, and that attribute is ID. I think it's ID. Index, not ID, index. And if I've done that right, bam, sweet. So now, no matter what I do to this inside sphere and what I do to the outside sphere, those points are always going to stick. So that is my prototype for these little guys here. Sweet. So I'm going to put a mountain on this guy just to see that everything stays hooked together. There we go. Yep. So everything stays, like these guys stay projected out to this outer rough sphere. So if I take my offset and start pulling that around, there we go. So those points are always going to stick to that outside sphere. Sweet. Okay. So next week I will expand on this with the actual geometry. I'll make it a little bit more interesting than just like these straight wires. Maybe put some noise on it. So yeah, so this is a little preview for next week. So next week we will be in Houdini. I love this program so much. I love all programs. Like all programs matter. Anyways, happy belated Halloween. Take care of yourselves. Be good to each other, and wash your hands, eat your vegetables, and drink water. I will see you next week. For all your modeling needs, go to cgspectrum.com/3D modeling. Once again, thank you for hanging out with me. I'm Bryan Bentley, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Last question. I've been getting a lot of work done in Houdini that I can say I understand most of the node for fur and fluid now. Good. That is awesome. I love the fur system in Houdini. It is the best. All right. Peace, guys. Thanks for hanging out. See you next week.